Reconstruction, Round 1. The first round of Reconstruction passes early, 1863. As of 1863, some states had already been occupied by Union troops and ready for readmission into the Union. Lincoln had to submit his first plan of Reconstruction early, and he set up some general goals. One, he wanted lenient terms, obviously, for readmission, as we'd talked about. He wanted to unify the country quickly, and he had a desire to prevent the Democrats from benefiting from unification. So we talked about these three political goals. And if it meant cutting loose freedmen's issues and solving problems for freedmen, then Lincoln was willing to do it, so long as he had his quick Reconstruction. His plan he proposed, we often call the 10% plan. And it simply stated that a minority of voters, equal to 10% of those who voted in the election of 1860, that's the election that the last election that the entire country voted in, they would have to take an oath of allegiance to the United States and accept emancipation of slavery. And then they could create a loyal state government. So the small number of people who had voted in that election could take an oath of allegiance once again to the United States and start to set up a loyal state government. Confederate government officials, Army and naval officers, military and civil officers who had resigned from the Congress or for their U.S. commissions in the Army in 1861 in order to join the Confederate government or the Confederate armies or Navy, they could not take that oath. They had to apply for a presidential pardon, and Lincoln had planned to give those pardons rather liberally. Also, importantly, is that freed African Americans were excluded from the 10%. And why is this? Simply put, he wanted to force these white voters who had been former slave owners or living in that society, who voted in that election, to start setting up the loyal state government. He didn't want freedmen interfering in this because he wanted to see that there were enough loyal whites in the area to reapply for admission. Now, Congress reacted rather badly to this. First of all, they were quite upset. They thought Lincoln was being way too easy on the South, and they did everything they could to stop it. Now, this is a Republican Congress, radical Republicans running Congress, and they're doing everything they can to work against their own president. Then again, if you think back to what you know about the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln was not a popular president during most of his time in office. In the election of 1864, up until roughly that summer of 1864, Lincoln was pretty sure he was going to lose that election to a commander he had fired twice before, who was now running against him for president, George McClellan. So Lincoln was not a popular man and not well loved through most of his time in office. It's only after his assassination that he becomes sort of a heavenly figure. In any case, his own Congress was working against him again. And they decided to deny seats to the representatives from these reconstructed states under Lincoln's plan. They wanted to disallow the electoral votes in the election of 1864 of these border or reconstructed states. Even if they wanted to support a Republican president, they didn't care. And they passed the Wade-Davis bill in 1864. Now, the Wade-Davis bill required at least half of all eligible voters in the southern states to take an oath of allegiance, and only then could delegates be elected to a state convention. Then they had to repeal secession and abolish slavery. In order to qualify, voters had to take what they call an ironclad oath. The ironclad oath was an oath that simply stated that they had never supported the Confederacy voluntarily. This is a very difficult series of conditions for anyone in the Confederate government to meet. First of all, that is a high percentage of eligible voters from the election of 1860 taking an oath of allegiance. So what they were hoping to accomplish was making sort of any kind of reconstruction at this point damn near impossible. Also, the ironclad oath stated they had never supported the Confederacy voluntarily. This is also a difficult thing for anyone to prove. Once again, the idea being that it would make Reconstruction damn near impossible in the here and now. Lincoln utilized a little piece of presidential machinery known as the pocket veto on the Wade Davis bill. The pocket veto merely occurred at a convenient time for him because it had occurred at a certain point before Congress left session. They sent the bill to him to sign. Congress was out of session. Lincoln never signed it. He never vetoed it, but he never signed it, and simply let the bill fall by the wayside. This is called a pocket veto because after so many days, the bill is essentially vetoed, even though the president doesn't actually veto it or sign it. However, one thing that would change all of this is Lincoln might have been in for a great fight after Congress came back for the next session. But shortly after the war ended in 1865, Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater by John Wilkes Booth. Lincoln's assassination ends this phase of Reconstruction, and it also brings us to our next round of Reconstruction under a new president, Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson is not a likely president, okay? Andrew Johnson was also not Abraham Lincoln's first vice president. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln ran with running mate Hannibal Hamlin, a fellow Republican. In 1864, Lincoln wanted to show he was appealing to the entire United States, and because, once again, we always pick vice presidential candidates because they come from the right area of the country, because they appease one wing of our party, what have you, he picked Andrew Johnson, who was not a Republican. Andrew Johnson was a Democrat from the state of Tennessee and was the only man to not give up his seat after Tennessee left the Union, and remained loyal to the United States and sat in Congress as a member of Congress from Tennessee.